Jessica at a punk show when I was visiting Winnipeg like a week ago.
Yeah.
And so we're just like, you know, it made sense. I was talking about this festival, Unceded Voices, and I thought it would be cool to kind of do something, and then just like something popped up where there's a blank wall, and now we're making art.
Yeah.
We're collaborating. Collaboration.
I love it.
So Lizzie and I came here with the intention of doing a 30-foot tall mural. It's a little different than street art because it's legal and we got permission, because obviously it takes many, many days.
Though we're not quite sure what exactly what we're trying to say with this mural, I think inherently like whatever we kind of do with our with what we're saying with art, why we're interested in art, like what kind of ideas we convey, I think it will come out. Yeah. Like, I mean, I've already had kind of like guys coming up and pretending to jerk off because it's like a naked photo of myself, but then, you know, I had to check him and just like, I'm like, no, it's not like this, it's like this, so it's okay, like you gotta be truthful about what your size is for real if you're gonna like project on my body, you know, let's be real about it.
This mural came about because in San Francisco, Lizzie and I work at a gallery called Galeria de la Raza, and we have a billboard that goes up every 3 months with different artists from around the world. And the last billboard we did was of 2 women sort of semi looking at each other, embracing, a trans male in the center, and you can see his like surgical scars, and then 2 men sort of like, you know, at the end. And it got defaced 4 times. The first 3 times were graffiti, and the 3rd time and the 4th time the building was set fire. And it was a very, very, very harsh response from the community.
So there was a guy from the shop that came out and wanted to collaborate, but he had a big kind of like calendar, like really like the sexy like wet t-shirt, you know, which you often see in like in these kind of like male dominated spaces. But like my context is like, no, I got my own body, and my message is a little bit different, which is like, I don't really I see it as a body. It's a naked body, but it's more so I think that's what people bring to it, is like if they want to sexualize it, if they want to objectify it, kind of is the male, it's like the male gaze in a way, and I can't really control that, but I can still insert myself and really challenge that and just see what, you know. Yeah.
And it's really nice to see like a female figure, a body that isn't been photoshopped and touched up to look a certain way to please a certain type of demographic.
Yeah.
This is just made for your own personal expression.
We photographed 2 of our friends a week before coming, designed the mural, and then now here we are.
I paint, I draw, I've just been getting into a lot of spray painting. I've been a practicing artist since 16. I've been doing a lot of programming. 18, I started facilitating art workshops with youth. I'm going to the University of Winnipeg right now, and they have Aboriginal Student Council there and Aboriginal Student Center.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we're allowed to smudge in there. They provide like sweats free of charge for everyone who's interested in going to there. They provide elders if you're interested in learning about more traditional knowledge, but they also just provide like space and like food and computers and stuff so that you can just like work and do your own thing too, which is super awesome. It's really nice to like have those types of supports because like I found like going to school and university, I hear that well, now I was growing up, I'm told that as an Aboriginal woman, only 8% of us get to go to like university or post-secondary education. So to me, it was really important to be there to represent more of us ladies.
Yep.
And like to show that like we're not all drunks on Main Street, which is really sad because again, like my mom is Czechoslovakian and French. My dad is 100% Ojibwe. But my mom knows more about the culture, and my dad is totally an apple, like red on the outside, white on the inside.
So racist.
I know.
But it's interesting to have those conversations. Like we can't like be quiet about the different stigmas that surround that, you know?
Yeah. And like he's cool with it. He doesn't mind. He's had like a lot of like weird experiences too, in the sense of like the 60s scoop. He was a part of that.
Oh yeah.
And so I can understand why he might not be as interested in learning about like this aspect, because he's been told all these like negative things about like his people or where he's come from, and then like when he actually like went back home to check it out for his like first time when he was like 18, after he like got out of like the foster care system, like his family was like, how much money you got? And so like just negative experience after negative experience, he just hasn't bothered with it. But I personally have had like so many awesome experiences. Like I went to my first sweat when I was 16 years old. I had my, like that's when I got my spirit named Starwolf, and like I've never felt like more comfortable, or I'm like, it's just, I feel like belonging somewhere, or like I've been like searching for something for so long that I know was missing, but I just didn't know what, and then like you're like, oh, okay, this is it.
I think the first few days, because of our process, because whatever we spray, we cover up immediately in order to do the next layer, and so people, I always say like you have to trust the process, because basically the whole mural is covered, and then in the end it's kind of like ripped off, and then you can kind of see the final thing. And so people were kind of like, what is that? What is it gonna be? What is it gonna be? And then the other night it rained, so it took off all the stencils in the night. And so when we showed up, there was two faces, right? And so you couldn't really tell it was two women, but you can tell that it was about love, and then you could tell with the way they looked at each other that it was gonna be something about love. And so that's when people started like kind of stopping, and like we haven't really gotten anything negative, and I think until right now, when we put the second girl's hair up, now I think people are like, oh, it's two women, and now we're putting up the phrase, you know, so I think that is going to be for sure like what sort of cues people
those
in.
reactions.
Man, I really wish I spoke French. Then I could understand what these people are saying. Oh man. Okay, so this dude just walked by and like,
tried to pee on it.
yeah, or looked like he was having sex with the image. And he was doing it just to like show us type thing. Like I'm sure if he walked by and he was like by himself, he wouldn't do that shit.
Probably not. Or maybe he would pee on it, and I'd still be okay with that.
We arrived with the intention of the words in the mural being in English, because that's our language. But since the community is French, we had a problem with that, and we had to change the words into French. So we went back and forth, but we realized that what's most important is not us or the mural itself, but the message. And at the very last minute, we're changing it to French because the message is what's important, and if that's the way it's going to reach more people.
When you go around like walking down the streets every day, I don't like see a lot of like my heritage, but this is where I was born and raised. I'm from Winnipeg, and I've like my reserve is like 2 hours away, but I've only ever seen the road to it. I was very assimilated in the sense of like Western culture. Like I didn't start learning about like my heritage until I was like 16 or 17, because I had to go out and find it. I had to go out and find and talk to these elders who had this knowledge that isn't here in the city, that's easily available, like other types of knowledge, like math and science. What about like this spiritual and traditional knowledge about the plants and the animals and the people and how we're all interconnected? That's stuff they don't teach you all the time, and I think it's very, very important, and that I find is a lot held in the Aboriginal culture, and
more of that kind of like indigenous worldview, right? Yeah.
Or I just don't feel like it's always fairly represented, or it's not always there or thought about or talked about very often.
And it's super complex. When I say indigenous worldview, that's like, I don't mean to like say all indigenous worldviews too, because there's so many, like there's like 500 plus like different types of indigenous people in North America alone, really. And so I think we all have like our own ways of our own teachings, our own ways of like how we know knowledge of the land, knowledge, you know.
We know that with this art, this is not going to cure homophobia, this is not going to cure racism, this is not going to cure cancer. What we hope is just that we can like throw a wrench in the machine that is like someone's day. Like someone's driving to work and they can like be like, oh, okay, like I like to paint things on like a giant scale, almost so that people can like advertisements, we become desensitized to it, you know, so that subconsciously they're like thinking about it, or, you know, I just want it to not be a big deal. So we shall see.